focus to an interesting development in the digital world. We understand that Instagram, which is of course under Meta, is launching a new feature. And this feature could change how teens use the app. Think of it like a PG-13 rating for movies. It means that users who are under the age of 18 will automatically be placed into the 13+ setting on Instagram. And they will be able to opt out only with the permission of their parents. So while the teen accounts already hide graphic or disturbing images on Instagram, now adult content like tobacco or alcohol consumption, all of that, in the new PG-13 version on Instagram, there will be tightening of restrictions. So this move follows some chatter about online safety of children. Meta is drawing inspiration from movie ratings to shape this entire experience, and that's something that we are watching. But to break this down, let's connect with someone who understands this space really well, and that's cyber psychologist Nirali Bhatia, who joins us on this broadcast. Great to have you with us, Nirali. What's your understanding of what Instagram is trying to do here? From a psychological lens, if you can perhaps take that on, do you think these kind of restrictions are going to help teenagers, or could these limits really make certain content more tempting for them to seek out perhaps elsewhere?
So, see, it's going to be a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Not that it will not bring in restrictions, but at the same time, for certain segment of audiences, it will also bring in that kind of temptation. Any kind of restriction has always got more attention and more temptation. But nevertheless, we need to begin somewhere. We are looking. I mean, India being a youth country, we're looking at major numbers where this restriction can help safeguard, especially the earlier, or rather younger age children, definitely, yes. So not that it is going to be completely ignored or it's not going to be helpful, but yes, it may be, we should not be stopping at this point.
So not stopping over here.
Also.
Yes, I understand. So Nirali, if you're not going to stop over here, I'm just trying to get a grip on, this movie-style rating system. I'm wondering if you kind of adopt it and play it on social media, that entire system, where emotional influence works rather differently. I'm wondering how far it can actually work when you're taking a model that exists and applying it elsewhere.
See, if you're going to apply it as it is certainly not going to work, because the purposes are different for both, whether we are talking about movies, which is primarily for entertainment. And here we are talking of social media, which caters to not just entertainment, but even education, communication, and a lot more. So as it is, it will not. But at the same time, if we take it as a stepping stone, and let's start with this content, because we're not only looking at in terms of the age restrictions to the teenagers, but we're also looking at it from the parental consent point of view. So in those regards, it will depend on who's going to be the committee who's going to decide what kind of algorithmic decisions are they going to bring in, what kind of age verification check. Because that's where the major concern lies.
Yes, indeed. Let's get in a legal perspective as well. And for that, cyber law expert advocate Puneet Bhasin also joins us. Great to have you with us, Puneet. What is your reading of this? Because this new PG-13 setting on Meta's platform, which is Instagram for teens, it sounds like a big move. But from a legal standpoint, you think these restrictions genuinely strengthen child protection online? Or are they just a PR response to mounting criticism for everything that a child is exposed to on social media?
I would say it's more of a PR response, because to a great extent under the Indian contract laws, if you will see whether you classify it, ideally a child cannot have a profile on any of these platforms without parental consent, which would end up meaning, because, in India, we have a legal contractual age of 18, which means to even agree to the I agree of terms and conditions of any platform, whether it may be let's say Instagram or any other social media platform, a person has to be of age of majority, above 18 years of age. Anything below that would mean it requires the written and verifiable consent of a guardian, which currently is not there on most platforms.
Okay.
So to a great extent, if I would say PG-13 is, there is a lot of alarm that is there in the community now, within society, that, the crimes against children rising, the kind of attention span with these social media platforms, with Instagram, the reels, attention span, deviant behaviors. So I think to a great extent, this would be more of a PR gimmick, really.
So then, if despite these safeguards, you think this is only a PR kind of reaction, but teens are still getting exposed to sexual content or any content that is about self-harm as well, what legal accountability would Meta face under our laws, under India's IT rules or the Data Protection Act? You think that has teeth to be able to go after this?
See, the social media rules and regulations were already implemented in 2021.
Yes.
If the social media companies were so cautious and were so having so much of regard for the Indian laws, they would have come out with this at that point of time itself. We are looking at almost 4.5 years later. And now after 4.5 years, when the awareness among parents, schools are creating awareness, crimes against children have risen, parents are not allowing children to have these profiles, they are overseeing what children are doing on social media. That is when after 4.5 years of the law's implementation, this safeguard comes. I find the timeline very, very strange. Had the platforms wanted to respect the Indian law, the social media and intermediary guidelines was already implemented in 2021. They should have done it right then, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very valid point. Nirali, from your standpoint, parents can now opt for an even stricter limited content mode. But in your experience, does over-restriction actually help, or could it alienate teens and push them towards secrecy online? Because that's the other battle that we have to fight, right?
So here I will again say that it helps to a certain extent and not to a larger extent. Every child is different. There are children who are explorative and there are children who will still be restricted. So it's the same situation like we need, a license to drive. There are some children who still drive without license, right? They want to explore it earlier. So it's the same story that's going to happen. But I thoroughly believe that, even if it is late, something is better than nothing. We're not having any kind of restrictions. We're not having any kind of checks in place. At least this will try and help. Overall, what I believe is the intent. If the intent is in the right place for these social media companies, where they can let go of a little business over children's safety, then I think this move will also work out well.
It is going to be a trial case, if you please. Puneet, perhaps at best you can concede that much. But do you see this move, in case it is successful to some extent, do you think it could set a precedent for Indian regulators, perhaps even prompting similar mandates for age-rated content, maybe on YouTube, on X, other social platforms? Do you think that could pick up at all?
See, I first of all do not understand why do children need to be on these platforms and view this kind of content. The problem is that, we are creating digital beings with a lack of physical connect to the physical world, creating attention span issues, creating academic issues, leading to a lot of other mind space issues in young children. So, a lot of countries have actually gone ahead and banned it for children. A lot of countries have gone ahead and banned it for children now. So in that scenario, I understand why social media needs to retain Indian market. We have a large number of children. But, I don't think they should give parents any kind of happiness or feeling a good factor that, they care about us and, they've regulated the content. We are the biggest market for them. If we also go down the route like the other countries which have banned social media for children, which has actually happened globally, then they lose a major chunk. So I would say this is more of an appeasement mechanism at this point of time. They can't afford to lose the Indian market. But that, if you will say that if you're allowing a child with social media, YouTube, a device, see, if a child knows how to open YouTube, if he knows how to use social media, if he knows how to use the mobile phone, he can very well access any other site that he wants.
Right.
So how does that even change? And the age of majority is still 18. How is a child going to agree to terms and conditions? There is no form of parental verifiable consent as of now even there. So there is no guardian consenting. A child is making a social media platform. It's absolutely illegal. The fact that the platforms are also allowing a child to have a profile is absolutely alarming.
So Nirali, the point that Puneet is making that for the most part, this is a marketing kind of move to be able to ensure, because of all the criticism against the exposure that children have on social media, that is why something like this is getting introduced. But its effectiveness is very questionable, according to her. And you're saying that at least some barrier is important. But when you consider PG-13 content, it could feature idealized beauty. It could feature peer pressure. There could be FOMO triggers in all of that content. So you believe that this kind of system is actually meaningful for social media, where emotional influence works so differently over there, doesn't it?
See, I completely agree. Of course, I have been also voicing that we need a ban. Children don't need it. But I think we have lost that ship because after what has happened in Nepal, here the debate again has spiked up that, once you taste the blood, going back to, other stuff is very difficult. And hence, I believe something is better than nothing. I completely agree that yes, it is not going to be enough. Even if, the exposure is still going to be there, what is main concern over here is implementation of this. That is my major concern because it comes with a safety risk of children's IDs.
Right.
That is where I feel if they can implement it better with security, then we are still looking at some sort of relief,
All
even
right.
in terms of emotional content.
All right, fair enough. We'll leave it there. Meta's new PG-13 restrictions, yes, they do mark a shift. There is a step forward, but the real test is going to be in how effectively they are enforced and whether they can genuinely shield young users from online harm. That is the big question. But thank you, Puneet Bhasin and Nirali Bhatia, for joining us. We're going to continue tracking how global platforms adapt to growing scrutiny over teen safety online.